No one ever changed your mind in public. They don't need to. If someone truly wants to control you, they don't shout orders. They don't threaten you with a weapon. They simply wait. They wait until you start policing yourself. They wait until the policeman is no longer outside of you, but inside of you. And by the time you realize it, there's no enemy left to fight. Because the voice ruling your mind sounds exactly like your own. It uses your logic. It uses your fears. It uses your morality. This is the ultimate trick of psychological warfare. The prisoner becomes the warden. And once that voice takes over, freedom becomes a performance, not a state. Today, we kill the warden. This is not a lesson on how to disobey. This is a lesson on how to remember who you actually are. You think your mind is yours. You walk down the street, you choose your clothes, you choose your meal, and you think, I am free. But mental domination was never about commands. It was always about permission. Permission to feel guilty. Permission to hesitate. Permission to doubt yourself at the exact moment you should be striking. Most people do not live under control. They live under internal negotiation. Look at yourself. You argue with yourself before every decision. Is this too bold? What will they think? Am I allowed to want this? You dilute your own intentions. You betray your instincts politely. That is not freedom. That is a well-trained dog asking for a treat. That is a mind asking for approval from ghosts. Power does not enter through force. It enters through repetition. It enters like a Trojan horse, dressed as common sense or being a good person. A sentence heard often enough stops sounding like an opinion and starts feeling like a fact. Be reasonable. Don't overreact. Stay humble. Know your place. None of these are laws of nature. They are leashes, silk leashes, light enough that you forget you are wearing them. But try to run, try to truly break away from the herd, and you will feel the choke. And once these commands are inside your head, the controller disappears. They don't need to watch you anymore. No tyrant survives forever. But a borrowed belief can rule a bloodline for centuries. And the most dangerous part? Most people will defend these beliefs as if they chose them. You believe you choose your thoughts. But pay attention. Your strongest emotional reactions are rarely the result of thinking. They arrive preloaded. Shame appears instantly. Fear arrives without invitation. Guilt activates before logic even wakes up. That speed tells you everything. Those thoughts were installed long before you had the power to question them. You are reacting like Pavlov's dog. The bell rings and you salivate. The criticism comes and you shrink. The risk appears and you freeze. Most people don't decide what they believe. They inherit it. From parents who were afraid, from teachers who were tired, from a society that needs you to be predictable. And once installed, Those beliefs don't ask permission to speak. They interrupt, they command, they rule. Rasputin stood before the Tsar of Russia, the most powerful man on earth, a peasant standing before a god. By all rules of social conditioning, Rasputin should have looked down. He should have trembled. He should have begged. But he didn't. He looked the Tsar in the eye. Why? Because Rasputin had deleted the internal program that said, "I am less than you." He understood that hierarchy is a game played in the mind, and the moment he refused to feel smaller, the Tsar felt smaller instead. If you refuse to play it, the other person's power dissolves. While the nobles were obsessed with protocol and politeness, Rasputin was obsessed with reality. And reality respects no titles. The moment you realize that every social rule is made up, that every "you can't do that" is just a suggestion, you become dangerous. You become the eye of the storm. Chaos spins around you, but your center is still. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The reason you are still controlled is not because you are weak. It is because you are comfortable. People stay controlled because obedience is emotionally cheaper than independence. Freedom costs friction. Freedom costs being misunderstood. Freedom costs standing alone in a cold room without instant validation. A ruled mind avoids conflict by surrendering internally. It calls this cowardice maturity. It calls this fear wisdom. It calls this submission being the bigger man. But look closer. That calm is not peace. It is suppression wearing a mask. It is a slow suicide of the soul. The most controlled minds are obsessed with justification. They live in a perpetual courtroom inside their own heads. Every action requires a defense attorney. I did this because. I'm sorry, I just meant. Please understand my point. Stop. A sovereign mind does not announce itself. It does not argue with imaginary judges. It does not perform its reasoning for the jury. It moves, and it lets the discomfort fall where it may. No authority survives when you stop asking to be understood. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you fire the judge. You burn the courtroom down. If you explain yourself often, you are not misunderstood. You are managed. So how do you break the chains? Mental sovereignty does not begin with a loud shout. It begins with silence. The moment you stop reacting to every thought as if it deserves obedience, a thought of fear appears. You don't fight it. You don't obey it. You stare at it. You let it sit there, unsupported, starving. This terrifies the system inside you, because control survives only through engagement. It needs you to argue back. It needs you to worry. The moment you stop feeding the internal narrative, it weakens. Not dramatically, not instantly, but quietly, like a fire running out of oxygen. One day, you will notice something unsettling. The thoughts that once dominated you still appear, but they no longer command. They knock on the door, they wait, and when you don't answer, they leave. That is the moment control collapses. Not loudly, not heroically, but completely. Nobody rules a mind that refuses to kneel internally, and nothing ever will again.